Hi and welcome to my channel, Shades of Sage. So today I am finally uploading a video where I made my sister's birthday cake. So I had this posted, the pictures on my Instagram and on my Facebook, and so here is the video for it. So first I'm just making sure that everything is washed and clean, because especially when you're baking, you don't want any greasy residue on the items that you're using. That's baby Kenzo cheering me on there. So I'm just making sure everything is clean. And then she did buy all the ingredients for the cake and all of the tools that I needed. So it's not a homemade cake from scratch. We use some store-bought ingredients, but that's okay. You still can make a nice cake that nobody will know was not even made from scratch. So I'm making sure everything is level here, because that's really important when you're baking as well. You want to make sure that everything is level and that your measurements are correct. So I didn't have a lot of time to bake this cake, so I think it had to be done in about 4 hours. So it's definitely helped that I didn't have to make everything from scratch. So she wanted an angel food cake and she wanted it to be a strawberry shortcake. So I'm making the actual cake here. Just whipping it up with the hand mixer. So these are soft peaks, not really like firm peaks as if you were making a meringue or something like that. And you definitely don't want to overmix it. So I stopped at that point there so I could spread it into the cake pan. Just mixing the bottom there, making sure everything is level, and then putting that into the oven. It actually doesn't take that long to bake. And I'm just remixing the bottom because it wasn't able to go all the way down. So here I am cutting the cake into the shape that I want. She wanted an N for her name. Her name's Tynasia, so she wanted an N. And she actually did buy stencils for me to use, but I could not figure it out at all. So I wrote it down on that little takeout container there and shaped it from there. So now I'm just adding simple syrup to keep the cake moist, especially if you're doing like a layered cake. If you use simple syrup or just something that is sweet to moisturize the layers in between. So I'm getting ready to make the flowers. This was not the right tip to actually make flowers. These are actually the tip that you would use to make leaves, but I worked with what I had. So I just decorated this. I kind of made like a blueprint for myself, so I knew how the flowers were going to look on the cake. But as you keep watching the video, you'll see that I didn't actually use the flowers on there. The icing was just a little too soft to make really firm flowers. If I had used like a buttercream or something like that held up a little more, it would have been easier to transfer them to the cake. But normally you would take this stencil and you would put it somewhere cold, and then you can take it off and put it onto the cake from there. So this is the second layer of the cake done. And like I said, she wanted a strawberry shortcake, so I'm cutting up the pieces of strawberry kind of like small to medium size, just cubing it really. So here are all the strawberries cut up. I think it was 1 pint. Oops, almost dropped that. So I think it was 1 pint. And now I'm cutting the second layer, the top layer of the cake. It was a little brown on this side, on the second layer. So I'm just cutting off as much of those dark pieces as I can. It wasn't burnt, but it just was a little sticky and tacky. So I wanted to get those edges off of the cake. And then I just made it a little bit smaller on the side. I cut off a piece off of the side. So here I am getting ready to do the filling. I had some strawberry preserves and I had the strawberries, some Cool Whip, and I'm mixing that all in together. She actually wanted an ice cream cake as well, so I left a little bit of room for that. I only added maybe about 2 cups of the ice cream because it was going to run out of the cake and I didn't want that. So I only added a little bit, enough to get the flavor and the texture. So I'm spreading all of that onto the cake. If I had more time, I would have cut the cake into multiple layers. But like I said, I only had about 4 hours to do this cake. So I had to do what I could, and so it's just only 2 layers, but if I had more time, I would have cut more layers, and then it would have more filling in between each layer as well. So here's the cake with the filling, and now I'm just adding the second layer onto the top. I'm very grateful that my mom was there because she was able to help out a little bit and keep the kids occupied so I could make this cake and finish it in time. So now I'm piping the design onto the cake. My sister requested basically a naked cake, so it was very minimal design, or minimal as far as like icing on the outside and everything like that. So just really a design on the top. She gave me a picture of what she wanted, and I just followed that. So I'm just doing the outline first, and then I will go back in and fill in the inside. And I forget what tip I'm using for this, but it's just a basic kind of like star shaped tip for these, about a medium size. And like I said earlier, I am piping the flowers right directly onto the cake. She also wanted pearls on the cake. The picture she showed me had pearls, so that's what I'm doing there, just adding some pearls and having my mom as my second eyes to see where I need to fill in some more flowers on the cake. So then I went back and did some more, and now I'm adding the strawberries on top. I'm using the same simple syrup that I use inside the cake to keep the strawberries nice and shiny. And it also keeps them from going bad. Just fixing the cake because, like I said, that ice cream was starting to melt, so I had to work as fast as I can, get this cake in the fridge and delivered to where she needed the cake to go. So I'm just piping like a little edge around the outside bottom of the cake just for decoration, but mainly to keep the cake from moving on the cake board. The end is on its own cake board that I cut to the shape of the end, but it's also on this silver cake board, and I just wanted to make sure that it wouldn't move and transport. So I'm just looking at my design here, making sure everything's nice and clean, cleaning up the cake board on the bottom, making sure that it looks perfect. So here are the different stages of the cake. And that is everything. Thank you so much for watching.